we're exploring the most effective and deadly warriors that history has ever known.
Please note, countless lives were harmed, ended, and brutally tortured during the events we described today.
Our first story begins with a slave warrior sleeping. A venomous snake wraps around his weary face, an ill omen. Just as the serpent encircled the beloved man, an immense power would soon completely envelop him.
This power might lead to his greatest glory, or perhaps his final destruction, and she could not predict the outcome.
For now, he was simply Spartacus, a man enslaved after deserting his prior service in the mighty Roman military.
His exceptional combat skills drew the swift attention of Batiatus, the brutal owner of a gladiator training center.
The training camp life was an absolute horror. The slaves were punished, beaten, and forced to fight to the death.
This changed in 73 BCE, when Spartacus and over 70 fellow slaves executed their sudden escape plan.
They quickly took kitchen knives and sharp utensils to swiftly eliminate the security guards standing in their path to freedom.
As they exited, they luckily discovered a storage wagon loaded with gladiator arms and equipped themselves properly. Spartacus was fully aware the high-ranking Roman officials would not tolerate or ignore their outrageous flight.
The sight of mere slaves sparking such chaos was intensely shameful for the powerful, immense Roman Empire.
If the rebels were successfully captured, they knew they would surely be subjected to torture and an immediate execution. They quickly retreated and took shelter upon the volcanic slopes of Mount Vesuvius to establish their new base.
On the journey, they successfully recruited many fellow slaves, poor peasants, and soldiers to join their growing ranks.
Spartacus was instantly chosen as the commanding leader, as Rome was distracted by other conflicts in the Mediterranean Sea.
The Roman forces sent a tiny military unit to entirely seal the single road up Vesuvius to starve the hiding slaves.
However, the smart gladiators descended the mountain's opposite face using crude ropes made of forest vines. They easily crushed the stunned Roman army at the base in a completely swift, unexpected, and devastating surprise attack.
Rome immediately understood they had seriously underestimated Spartacus, but it wouldn't be the final miscalculation.
Many of his rebel recruits were largely untrained, but his clever strategies made them an effective fighting force. Rome was further motivated to send a much larger, better-equipped military force to entirely crush the uprising. This time, they dispatched a praetor, Commander Gaius Claudius Glaber, who led an entire 3,000-man force. Glaber again attempted to trap them by camping and setting his base at the very bottom of Mount Vesuvius. Spartacus and his warriors cleverly crafted new ropes and began to silently descend the mountain's opposite face.
They successfully attacked Glaber's small, complacent garrison from the rear, completely shattering the entire force. Another commander, Publius Varinius, was sent next, who brought 2 more legions, or roughly 10,000 men. Varinius was extremely arrogant and foolishly split his formidable force into small, easily manageable groups. Spartacus efficiently struck and completely crushed each small group, destroying the massive combined force entirely. Commander Varinius ran and fled the fight, allowing Spartacus to capture his horse, guards, and fascade.
Spartacus and his quickly growing army of now almost 70,000 men turned north towards the Alps and freedom.
However, a significant portion of the army wanted to stay and continue fighting Rome, causing a major schism.
This resulted in 30,000 men, led by Crixus, choosing to separate and march south, and they were soon crushed.
Spartacus continued marching north, planning to cross the formidable Alps and escape Roman power forever. Rome sent 2 more praetors, General Cassius Longinus and General Gnaeus Manlius, to quickly intercept him.
Spartacus effortlessly crushed these Roman forces near Mutina, completely destroying another formidable army. With the northern armies now entirely neutralized, the road was now completely open to freedom through the Alps.
But for reasons history still does not completely understand, Spartacus made the costly, regrettable decision to turn south.
This foolish mistake allowed Rome to send their most brilliant and wealthiest commander, Marcus Crassus.
Crassus commanded a monumental force, specifically 10 formidable legions, or approximately 50,000 men.
He immediately restored discipline in his force by utilizing the terrifying and brutal tactic known as decimation.
Facing this new force and determined general, Spartacus was compelled to entirely retreat south to the tip of Italy.
Spartacus devised an escape plan to flee to Sicily, paying pirates to ferry his large army across the sea.
However, the treacherous Sicilian pirates took the money and, in a significant act of betrayal, left the army entirely. Crassus immediately recognized his opportunity, constructing a massive wall, trapping the rebels on the peninsula.
Spartacus found himself completely trapped by the massive wall and the entire sea, with no viable way to fully escape.
Spartacus planned a daring escape, waiting for a powerful winter storm to fully conceal his movement in the night.
In a daring nighttime maneuver, they successfully breached the wall, killing most of the guards and quickly escaping Crassus's trap.
Hearing of the success, Rome decided to send 2 more colossal forces under Pompey and Lucullus to finish the rebellion.
Once again, a massive number of rebels split from Spartacus, wishing to stay and fully fight the approaching Roman legions.
Despite the schism, Spartacus completely crushed Crassus's advance force, proving his total military superiority. However, with 3 separate armies now entirely closing in, Spartacus had no choice but to face the full might of Rome.
The final, massive battle of the war resulted in a devastating loss of life for both the Romans and the rebels.
Spartacus was mortally wounded, leading the cavalry charge before finally falling in a heroic but ultimately tragic battle.
The Roman army crucified 6,000 captured rebels along the entire Appian Way to send a terrifying message to all of Rome. Crassus and Pompey were declared the ultimate victors of the final, massive slave war, solidifying their power in all of Rome.
Like the video if you're enjoying this, and subscribe for more content like this.
Next, we meet Tlahuicole, a fearsome and deadly warrior who lived in the region we now recognize as central Mexico.
At the incredibly young age of 19, he led his own tribe's brave forces into a fierce battle against the Aztec Empire. This was a horrifying conflict. If they were defeated, their entire army would face violent ritual sacrifice to the lost gods. 5 priests would swiftly slice open their bellies and then rip out their living, still beating hearts as a sacred offering.
Wielding a massive wooden club that few regular men could even lift, Tlahuicole was a true one-man fighting army.
Wherever he moved, bones violently shattered like thin glass, and blood poured down like a heavy and sudden rain. However, he was completely overwhelmed by the enemy's superior numbers, captured and taken before Emperor Moctezuma. The Aztec emperor was so genuinely impressed by Tlahuicole's raw physical power that he immediately offered him his freedom. Tlahuicole firmly refused, stating it would dishonor his spirit to return to his nation after being honorably conquered.
He strongly insisted on dying nobly in the ritual sacrifice, but the emperor did not want his great strength wasted.
Tlahuicole accepted the military command, eagerly hoping to achieve a glorious death while fighting on the battlefield. His army easily defeated the invading forces with a terrifying show of warrior skill and unstoppable raw strength.
He returned to the emperor, demanding that Moctezuma fulfill the original promise and immediately sacrifice him instead.
Respecting his unbreakable will and physical power, Moctezuma agreed, and Tlahuicole was taken to the arena.
He was tightly bound to a large stone pillar and forced to face 8 incredibly famous rival warriors in quick succession.
Incredibly, he swiftly defeated all 8 of the warriors sent at him, until a 9th struck his head with a powerful blow.
With the powerful warrior finally fallen and utterly defeated, his heart could be quickly offered to the bloodthirsty gods.
What warrior do you want to learn about next? Let us know in the comments below. We read everything you send.
Finally, we travel across the sea to Scotland to meet a famed and unstoppable freedom fighter, Sir William Wallace. At this time, Scotland was heavily oppressed and brutally controlled by the powerful and ever-looming English crown.
Wallace's true fighting spirit ignited after the English violently murdered his entire family, including his pregnant wife.
He immediately took up arms with a massive 6-foot-long broadsword that few regular men could easily wield. Wallace immediately began striking at all English forces, fully crushing any who tried to stop his furious, unstoppable rampage.
Due to his terrifying prowess, more and more patriotic Scottish followers eagerly joined his growing movement.
Leading his massive rebel force, Wallace completely crushed the entire English army at the famed Battle of Stirling Bridge.
Due to his terrifying victory, he was quickly and efficiently declared the Guardian of Scotland by the local nobility.
This great victory did not last long, as King Edward I was furious and marched north with a much more powerful army.
At the Battle of Falkirk, Wallace's army was entirely crushed, suffering a devastating and horrifying loss of life.
After the defeat, Wallace was ultimately betrayed by the self-serving Scottish nobility, who were bribed by Edward I.
Wallace was quickly captured, tortured, and brutally executed by being hanged, drawn, and quartered. His head was brutally placed upon a spike on London Bridge as a horrifying warning to any who dared to rebel. Finally, we travel all the way to ancient Greece to meet one of the most famous warriors in all of history, Leonidas.
Leonidas stood at the narrow mountain pass of Thermopylae, with only 300 loyal and powerful Spartans.
They would immediately face the entire Persian army, which may have been as large as 200,000 soldiers.
The Spartans immediately formed a terrifying phalanx formation, entirely crushing any enemies who tried to approach them.
King Xerxes of Persia could not believe his eyes and fully challenged Leonidas to a horrifying one-on-one duel.
Leonidas fiercely responded to the challenge by simply saying the two most famous words in all of history, Molon Labe.
Sadly, the incredible Spartans were entirely betrayed by a local named Ephialtes.
The Spartans were eventually encircled and entirely wiped out, with Leonidas finally falling on the battlefield.
This incredible final sacrifice inspired all of Greece, who finally united to defeat the Persians in the following war. Leonidas' final sacrifice remains an iconic symbol of heroic defiance and standing up to overwhelming power.
Comment below. Which warrior do you believe is more effective, Spartacus or the other subject to be discussed?